Hi, in this video we're going to look at how to test a map with Logic App Standard. So I guess if we look at our VS Code project here, we've got the artifacts and we've got maps and schemas, and I've got two in here. So we're going to have a look in a future video again at the schema. In this one, we're going to focus on this map. So I've got a liquid map here, and this map is going to produce an XML document by parsing a JSON file. You can kind of get a flavor of the XML document there that's going to be produced. Now, the challenge, I guess, when it comes to things like maps and schemas and stuff is sometimes you can run the artifact locally. So, for example, if it's a liquid map, I can use .liquid directly in the code and point to the liquid file. That's one way of doing it. I can do the same with an XSLT map and potentially with a schema. One of the things that I think you just need to be slightly cautious of is sometimes when they run in a Logic app deployed on Azure, they might work very subtly different to what they work when you run them in your local code. So you probably want to kind of do a combination of both. So for speed, you might choose to run a map locally in custom code, especially if it's a liquid map. So you might run like an extensive set of tests locally, and then you might run some other tests where it's deployed to Azure. Um, you might also have the scenario where you've got certain artifacts that you just can't run outside of it being in the Logic app runtime. So you just need to sort of factor in those few considerations. Now, when it comes to the map here, in this case, we're going to run it in Azure. So I've got some helper Logic apps here. You'll notice these little test ones. So I've got this test liquid JSON to text workflow here. And if I just open this in the designer, so hopefully the designer will open pretty quickly here. So you can see I receive an HTTP request. I'm going to initialize a variable of the map name, which is taken from a header where I supply the map name. I'm going to do the transform JSON to text, so I just I pass in the body, I pass in the name here. I think that's a new property actually. Yeah, so it's must be a new property they've added for this. So it's coming from the Logic app as opposed to an integration account. Um, and I guess you've got a couple of choices there. You can maybe do some more advanced scenarios for those. But the key thing is I want to run this workflow to run my liquid here. Now over in my test, so I'm down here in the ship instruction map test. So what I've basically got is an input JSON message. So you can see it's a moderately complicated message here. And then I've got my desired output XML. So I'm going to basically run a test where I'll take the input, run it through the map, and I expect the output to look like this. So this is where we can use the Logic app test framework to help us here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the name of my map. I'm going to read my input in my expected file. I'll then build my Logic app test manager, and I'm going to tell it the name of the workflow I want to run, which is the liquid map. I'm then going to call the Logic app with an HTTP post, and I'm going to specify the name of the map here. And then that's going to run the Logic app. I'll get a response back, and then I'm basically going to do an XML compare where I'm going to read the response and check it's exactly the same as the output that we've got here. So what that'll mean is we will use this helper class over here. So I've just added this locally to this project, this XML compare helper, which will basically just compare the documents for me and give me a bit of useful output. That's kind of separate to the Logic App test framework, so I guess if you want to grab a copy of it from here if you need it or something. But basically, just stepping through here, you would see how simple it is to just call that Logic app and have it run the map on your behalf. And then I know that if it runs in my Logic app, it should work when I use it in any of my other workflows. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. This example would run it with the logic app deployed to Azure, you could just as easily put this in the unit tests and call that helper workflow when it's running inside the function. Runtime as well would be an option, or maybe another options you might want to use .liquid yourself directly and run the liquid file outside of the workflow runtime. So you've got a couple of options. I think I'll probably do a video at some point on the last one, just for completeness, but this video is really just to show you the code to run that helper logic app to execute a map for you.